Hi, I'm Ross Grieve. I'm here at the Photographer Academy, here to talk to you about 4K photography. And how simple is it to actually shoot in 4K photography? Well, I'm going to take you through some of the steps to setting up your camera to show how easy it is to shoot in 4K photography. In front of me I've got a Lumix GH4, which can shoot at 30 frames a second, and a Lumix GX8, which can shoot up to 25 frames a second. Now, two completely different cameras, but the idea is, as photographers, we're exploiting that fast frame rate. And it's really important at this stage not to get your frame rate confused with your shutter speed, which some people do, but it's not. So when you do compose your photo, you set everything up. It's the same principles. Manual mode is the most control you'll ever have. Choose your correct ISO that you want, choose your correct aperture, your shutter speed, and all these elements bring together how your photo is going to look. Now, because these are mirrorless systems, you can actually see through the eyepiece or on the back what you're actually shooting, because you're directly seeing what the sensor is seeing. So you can make little tweaks here and there, and even while recording. Now, when you are recording 4K photography or 4K footage, you don't want to do half-hour bursts, because 25 to 30 frames a second, it's a lot of footage. Roughly 1 minute filming in 4K is 1 gig on your card. So remember, those U3 cards can fill up quite quickly. So how easy is it? On here, all I need to do, turn it to the M movie mode. I can even go into the menu and choose 4K photo, and it will adjust all the settings for me. I can even shoot a pre-burst mode. So if I see something quick, I pick the camera up, push the button, but because it's already recording, it would have recorded a second before and a second after. Personally, I prefer to use the SS mode, which is start-stop. So when I pick up my camera, I want to film in 4K, I'm going to press the start button, and it'll film some footage. I'll press stop, it'll stop that footage. And I've just filmed 3 seconds in 4K on this camera here. So that's 45 potential photos that I can choose from. And that's no camera or DSLR camera in the world can keep up with that high frame rate. And we've got all that technology packed into these little cameras here that is very accessible to everyone. Obviously, I'm using the Lumix range. There's obviously other cameras that you can use. Lumix range is a bonus. You can actually do it in camera as well. You can use external recorders if you want to. But personally, you can get fantastic footage straight to the card on the GH4 and the GX8. So now I'm going to show you how to actually get that 4K photo from the 4K footage. I've got some footage of some surfers I photographed earlier. And if you just hit the play button on the back of the camera, and these come up, you'll notice the difference to tell between a still, which I've done some stills on the same card, and a video footage. Video footage, you can see the play button come up. In the play button, all I need to do is tap play, because it's all touch screen, and you'll see I'm starting to jump around. And I can pause that by tapping the up button and go through frame by frame by frame. Now, I quite like that shot, so I'm going to save that as a JPEG. Save that image. Thank you very much. Straight to my card. So I've now just created an 8.3 meg file saved straight to the card on my camera, which I can retrieve later. Now, if I want to get more footage from, or more frames from that particular piece of footage, I can pull more footage or more frames, 4K photos, in Adobe Lightroom, which I do quite frequently. I'll get the key photos actually I want out of the back of the camera, as I've just shown you, and I'll show you that again. So if we just need to go back, you can see the guy jumping around. I like that photo there, so I'm going to save it. Yes, I've saved that JPEG straight to the card. And that is right beside the video footage on my card. So when I pull it into Lightroom, I'm going to see that footage there as well. Now, when you do pull it into Lightroom, be careful that your images don't stack behind your footage, and keep your 4K footage. Consider that as your raw file as you would with your photos. If you look on the back of my screen, you'll see I was shooting in manual mode. Now I can choose full program, aperture priority, or shutter priority, but in manual mode I've got full control of what I'm doing with my ISO, with my aperture and my shutter speed. And when you're shooting obviously sports or surfers or anything like that, you want to have a fast shutter speed. If you are shooting a slow shutter speed, it's going to look fantastic in video, but when you go to pull that still out, the still is going to be blurred because the shutter speed is too slow. So if you're shooting at a 50th of a second, that's going to be far too slow to freeze a surfer mid-air. Whereas if you're shooting at, say, 1600ths of a second, you're still going to get that footage. So I was able to choose from 25 frames, from 50 frames actually, because it was only a couple of seconds worth of filming, and I got 2 cracking photos, which I was really happy with. The other good thing that I love about these Lumix cameras is they have their own built-in Wi-Fi. So when I'm out in the sticks and I want to have a look at my images on a bigger screen, say my iPhone or an iPad, so I can show a client right next to me as well, I can exploit and use the Panasonic Image App and transfer the image straight to that device without having to rely on a Wi-Fi zone, so to speak, because each of the cameras have their own dedicated built-in Wi-Fi. So it's pretty straightforward to do. Literally turn the camera on, tap Wi-Fi on the camera, and you'll see the little Wi-Fi signal come up on the back. Now the beauty about this, I only have to tap in the password from the camera to the phone once, and each time it syncs with the phone, it'll come up, and it's telling me, as you can see, to go to the Image App. So I'm going to the Image App, and as you can see, connecting to the camera, and you also notice I can control it remotely if I choose to as well. So I click on Transfer Image, and you'll see the photos come up. Obviously, the ones with the movie camera is the 4K footage, and beside that, you'll see our surfer. So I can look at that in a larger format on the back of my phone. Now I go, I quite like that. I can hold that down, and that's copied straight to my smartphone. So when I get into an area that has got 3G or a stronger signal, I can then upload that to my social media. I could pull it into Photoshop Mobile or Lightroom Mobile and do adjustments in there. So really just having that on almost like a worktop, a portable worktop, again opens up lots more options for me to share my photography. So as well as being able to use Panasonic Image App for transferring my images when I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I can also use it to control my camera remotely. So I can be about up to 30 meters away from it, and I can decide what I want to do. I can focus on it. I can jump around, and I can, because I'm in the video mode, I can hit record. Now if you want to film in picture mode, you want to take stills, you will have to change that. You can see up the top, I know what all the information they would normally have on my screen on the back of the camera. Video mode, the settings, I'm in 4K at 25 frames a second. I've got my autofocus on, my ISO, my aperture, and I'm filming now, for 25 seconds. I want to stop that obviously because that's a lot of information of a picture in the corner. But it's another easy way to control your camera, and it also opens up creative options for you as well. One of the things as photographers, we like to get down low or put things up high in obscure places. So this allows you to do this without the use of maybe a monopod or having to lie down and get soaking wet. Because remember, these two cameras are weather sealed, so they will take a splash of water. So once you've done that, and if you decide to say shoot in stills, you would obviously go to your camera, whatever you do. I've actually put it straight into IA mode because it's a great mode to use. And now you'll notice that the camera is highlighted, so I can tap that, and I've taken a still straight to card. And if I want to extract that from the camera, of course, I would go back to home, and I would transfer that image as the same process we did earlier. It's that quick. So you've seen how easy that was to use the Image App, and the key thing about these cameras is how easy they are to use, and also how light they are, and also my children can use them. My children understand we live in a touchscreen society these days as well, so kids love touching the screens and see what happens. When I first moved over to mirrorless from DSLR, I used to pick up my old DSLR and I used to touch the back of the screen just from habit. But now it's second nature to everything we use, from phones, and now that technology is on the back of the camera, which means we can use it as well. Something else which is also useful is focusing on these cameras as well. Being a touch screen on the back, it allows me to actually touch anywhere on that screen and focus using the whole sensor, rather than being limited to the 51 points that my old DSLR used to have. Another piece of great technology in the mirrorless cameras is focus peaking. What's focus peaking? Focus peaking is video technology which shows a highlighted color, which tells you when the image is actually in focus. So if I put this camera into manual mode, and of course it only works in manual mode, and I adjust my camera here, you should see little highlights come around. So you'll see Chef Yuki over there, his badge is now bright green, and that's focus peaking. So I know those parts in that photo are pin sharp. And that's an incredibly powerful tool. So when you're setting up live, or you're doing stills in the studio, whatever you need to do, or outside, and you need to have pinpoint sharp manual focus, focus peaking is a fantastic tool. And it used to be in the big Vericams, now it's in the mirrorless cameras of the Lumix, and it's something you will certainly fall in love with. I hope you've loved your introduction to 4K photography. I've enjoyed sharing it with you. My name's Ross Grieve, and I'm here at the Photographer Academy.